Alright, and we're live. Good evening, magandang gabi sa lahat sa mga nanonood sa atin, those who are tuning in right now with the Resistance Trader page. Good evening to everyone, and let's check out our comment section. Ayan, maraming salamat, no. Shout out to all of our viewers right now, Miss Sheila, Mr. Billy, yan, Chaseline, Diana, JTech, and everyone else. So again, good evening and welcome to the show. So this is the time of the month again that we will be discussing blockchain updates. My name is James Inove and I am the community manager and co-founder of the Resistance Trader community. Welcome to our page. Welcome to our community. And of course, I would like to introduce my co-host for tonight, none other than Mr. Sly Sylvester from the Altash University. Yeah, there you go. Hi, Sly. Kamusta?
Hey, what's up? What's up? Good day to you and everyone watching.
All right. So thank you, Sly, for again, of course, so walang sawang suporta, never-ending support for this show. And of course, this show tonight, this day is actually very special because with us tonight also our special guest, and at the same time, I just would like to announce to our viewers that this is also co-broadcasted with our international partner, International Council of Registered Blockchain Professionals. So you guys, if you are watching from the iCore BP page, that's the reason why we need to talk more in English than the usual Tagalog natin. But of course, from time to time, because our most of our audience for the page are Filipinos, will be speaking in Filipino, and our guest understands Filipino. But we'll be translating this for our foreigner guest. So again, thank you very much for that one. And I would give Sly the hand in actually introducing our guest for today, for tonight.
All
Yeah.
right. All right. So we have a great show coming up with you guys. So, in terms of our guest tonight, we have the president of YGG Philippines, Luis Buenaventura. We also have the co founder of Musagen, Fermin Baranachea III. And then we also have director of Southeast Asia, Binance, Colin Goltra. So, hi, guys.
Hello, guys,
Hello,
and
hello.
thank
Hey
you.
everybody.
Welcome to the show. Yeah. How are you guys? How are you doing?
You're good.
Doing
I'm
well,
drinking,
thanks.
so I'm doing well.
Yeah. So yeah, thank you very much, guys. Allow me to thank you for actually being with us in the show tonight, today. Where well, of course, this is broadcasted internationally, so we got different time zones. That's why our greetings would be different also. Good day, and good evening to everyone. Now, to start off, we are actually having some great discussions here and great topic more about DAO's NFT marketplace, of course, with our guest from Binance and blockchain in education or blockchain education rather. So these are the things that we will be discussing tonight in this forum. And to begin with, by the way, I just would like to warm up the guys with a few questions though. So just a few questions, guys. This one goes to all of you guys, so anyone can answer the question. Kasi 'di ba, there's a rise in the NFTs recently, and we've noticed that not just in the arts but also in games, and there are a lot of they're going mainstream on NFT right now. So what do you see, or what is your future outlook with regards to NFTs other than gaming? So what is the future outlook? And if your companies or the community or corporations that you are representing also have their own outlook, maybe you can guys share it to our audience.
Hmm.
Anyone?
Did you want to go first, Colin, or?
Sure, I'll go first. Um, so yeah, look, I think NFTs are a pretty hot topic right now. They're a bit of a buzzword, I think, in many circles, and I think I think I think there's a lot of people creating NFTs for the sake of creating NFTs. But the really valuable and I think long-lasting projects are going to be those that have NFTs for very specific use cases, that have native utility, and so forth. And so I think in that context, I think we're in a very early stage, right? I think there were prior eras of the internet, and NFTs are basically making it so that if you're an active user or participant of the web or the internet, there are now ways you can take ownership of the internet parts of the internet that you participate in. And so, yeah, I guess to that end, I'm part of a couple organizations, primarily part of Binance, which has its own NFT marketplace. We have our own smart contracting platform called the Binance Smart Chain, and as part of that, I think just like on Ethereum, you can create your own NFTs, and we have our own ecosystem that we're building. Outside of that, I'm also involved in a side project with a colleague, Gabby Dizon, called Nara Gallery, which is a gallery space for Filipino artists. And international artists to showcase their NFT art in this game called Decentraland. And so, I've been very deep into the NFT space, and so, and yet I still think it's very early. I think right now we're still developing many of the design patterns for, what types of NFTs will have the most utility online. And maybe a third thing that I've recently become a part of is I've invested in something called the Crypto Pop Art Guild, which I think is an excellent segue into my good buddy Luis here.
Thanks. Okay, cool. So I don't even know how to do that shill myself. Thanks, Colin. Yeah, so just to answer the original question, I wanted to say that I also maybe echo Colin's ideas that we're so early right now in the way that we're using NFTs just for gaming and just for art that I actually think that we're going to spend some time just in these two realms for now, because there's still so much to do kind of just here. When we first started thinking about like what non-fungible means, people were kind of thinking about, real estate and kind of much bigger things, much more tangible physical things. But I think that where it really shines, at least kind of in the current state of the technology, is in these more digital stuff, which is why we're seeing it making such big impacts in the areas of gaming and art. The Crypto Pop Art Guild that Colin was talking about earlier, that's kind of a fusion of both of those ideas, where you kind of take the income of Axie Infinity, you combine it with NFT art, and what you have is a program where young artists who are not employed and maybe don't really have an art career yet, they can make a baseline income from playing Axie Infinity, and then because they're part of the art guild, they're gonna receive mentorship from NFT artists that have a lot more experience than them, and hopefully put them on a path where they can actually become full-time artists. So that's kind of some of the ideas that are possible, even when we're just talking about these two realms. And I don't think we've even really gone all that deep yet. I think with the NFT gaming stuff, you've got Axie Infinity for sure. That's a runaway success. But like I can imagine, this is stage one, palang, and we've got a lot more ground to cover before this stuff becomes like really, really mainstream.
All right. Thank you, Colleen, and thank you, Luis, for those insights. How about C, Fermin? What are your insights about the future of NFT?
Well, I agree with both Colin and Lewis that we're early in the game, and clearly, art and gaming are the primary use cases right now. But while I do believe there's still a lot of development that's going to happen, you're already seeing other industries exploring how they can use NFTs. For example, in the luxury goods sector, right? Because what's an NFT? An NFT essentially is something that proves ownership of an item. So, in that respect, let's say Louis Vuitton is exploring the possibility of using NFTs when you buy their luxury items as a way to verify authenticity regardless of where they check your item. You can also use it for, they're also exploring how to use it, let's say, for something like ticketing, which, as you can imagine, in watching concerts, going to sporting events, ticket fraud is a very big problem that they have to contend with. But now that you've got something like an NFT, they are studying how that can be used, because that can help them determine whether the what's being presented is actually authentic or fraudulent. So I do agree that right now, precisely because of the digital nature of the development, you're still going to be seeing it primarily in gaming and in art, but you're going to start seeing nibbles here and there in other industries, logistics, supply chain, anything where you can try to delve into proving ownership of the item. So let's say if it was in logistics or supply chain, tracing the movement of documents, let's say from point A to point B.
Yeah. That's it. Thank you, Fermin, for your input. No, so we see a lot of things happening in the space right now, not just in the space of gaming, not just in the space of arts. Now, yeah, we see it even in applications like logistics. I believe they tried, though I'm not sure how successful it was, to do NFT as a way to actually monitor also vaccination, especially at the advent of this pandemic. So these are just a few applications that see possible use cases. Now, we've heard yung popularity of NFT, and it's rising yung hype of the P2E, or the play to earn model. Apparently, most people knows more about the games, but less of the NFT minting. There are known marketplaces right now, but Binance included. Colin's Binance included. Now, can you maybe anyone can help explain more what an NFT marketplace is in general, and then maybe Colin can take the lead on actually sharing their own NFT market and how it is different from the other marketplaces out there. So yeah, maybe you can share more about that one, Colin.
Sure, I'll get started. So, um, NFTs are built on typically are built on what you would think of as open blockchain protocols, right? So, in the same way that Bitcoin, Ethereum, Binance Coin, of course, so in the same way that these are cryptocurrencies, crypto tokens that exist on the open internet, and there's no native home to it, right? They have a blockchain. You then have exchanges where you can basically take your funds, deposit them there, and then you can use that as an interface to trade your cryptocurrencies, right? In the same way, often NFTs are built on Ethereum or Binance Smart Chain or Solana or some other blockchain, and a marketplace is essentially a place where you take it to you take your NFT to view it, to display your collection, to buy and sell NFTs, to trade them, right? And so in the same way the kind of original concept of a market is, like the maybe the town center where you go to trade your goods. An NFT marketplace is a place where you bring your NFTs to buy and sell and trade them, right? The Binance NFT marketplace, functions in this way, right? You can buy and sell NFTs on Binance with your Binance account, and you can kind of then take them off into the blockchain and off of Binance. The difference, though, is that the Binance NFT marketplace is the primary destination for Binance, as you might imagine, BSC based NFTs, right? So Binance Smart Chain is an alternative smart contracting platform, similar to Ethereum, actually very similar in its architecture and programming language, with some difference in scalability and fees. And so we have a marketplace. We have a couple different marketplaces. One featured, which is an open one. One called Binance NFT, which is a curated one. But essentially, we are, on the Binance NFT marketplace, we are trying to bring artists and creators into Binance, the Binance Smart Chain ecosystem. And then on the featured side, it's an open marketplace that anyone can buy and sell and trade their NFTs, right? So, yeah, it's essentially a centralized or semi-centralized venue in which to bring your NFTs from from out in the wider on the wider blockchain to come and trade and exchange them.
One thing to add, I guess, is that there are tons of NFT marketplaces out there, and it's basically like a new area of competition, really, because if you think about where the parang uh, the best example or the best analogy is when you're an artist in the normal world, in the traditional world, you have to pick where to exhibit your art, no, yung which gallery do you go to? Is it the one in Mega Mall or do you wait for the one in CCP, right? And that has a really big effect on how sellable your work is. So parang the differentiator for a lot of these marketplaces are traffic, like how many people actually go there, and then ease of use or ease of payment. Because some of these marketplaces, they will accept just Ethereum, right? Some of them will be a little bit more flexible. Some of them will actually accept stable coins, and then there's even another class that actually accept credit cards. And I think that's the one that makes things very easy, because like the collector doesn't even need to be a crypto aware person. They could just use their Visa card to buy. So that has an impact on the choices. And obviously hindi naman pare-pareho yung mga galleries or marketplaces na yan. Each one has their own kind of um, advantage or disadvantage. So the artist is they need to do the research, I guess, in order to navigate which is which. But that's part of the fun too. And it's another example of how this market, this industry is so emergent, because it's not quite obvious where you should go as a starting NFT artist.
Yeah, thank you, Luis. Thank you, Colin. I just have a question though. So, if for example, because there are, sabi nyo nga, you mentioned that there are a lot of NFT marketplaces out there. So, what will be the challenge if, for example, I came from a different marketplace and I will be migrating my work or probably duplicating? I don't know. I think that's possible technically. If I will duplicate an
So
NFT from a version from Ethereum to BSC and put it in Binance.
yeah, so I would say that there's a couple things to clarify, right? So I think of it as at least two types of marketplace, right? There's one which is you would think of as an open marketplace, where any NFT you have for that corresponding chain, right? It's very rare that you have marketplaces that correspond to multiple chains, right? So usually you have a marketplace that's just for Binance Smart Chain or just for Ethereum or just for Solana, or Tezos is another example, right? And so one type of marketplace would be like an open marketplace. And so any NFT you've purchased or created or collected from any other marketplace, so long as it's on that same chain, you can see and view and transact it on that platform. So a couple great examples in the Ethereum ecosystem would be OpenSea or
Right.
Rarible, right? These would be open marketplaces that are going to show you every ETH NFT that you have in your wallet. On the Binance side, our version of that would be one called Featured, which is all the BSC NFTs from any platform, whether that's Binance or PancakeSwap or some of the others. On the so that's one, is maybe think of it as an open NFT platform. The other one, I don't want to call it a closed NFT platform, but maybe a better way to phrase it would be a curated NFT platform, right? And so that would be something like Super Rare. Here we go. Did I lose?
I think Colin has dropped off. Um, I guess I can just jump in na lang while he's reconnecting or something.
Yeah, maybe we
So
can continue the discussion,
yeah,
Luis. Ito yung actually
sure,
this is
sure.
the other question that I have, no.
Yeah.
I
Okay, go.
know he's trying to explain a while ago your differences between the closed and the curated. meaning to say, and
Yeah.
also the differences between the blockchain of these platforms. Now,
Mhm.
my question would be like, do you think there's a possibility in the near future, or any possibility that there can be an NFT marketplace open for, if not all, most blockchains. It can be blockchain agnostic.
So like a
Is there
Yeah.
blockchain
I mean that.
marketplace.
Yeah. That project already exists. It was launched 3 or 4 days ago. It's called Arteon. So yeah, totally technically possible. But it's not a technology problem. It's the problem is that the bigger these open marketplaces get, kasi the more likely it is that there will be uh, content there that is sold that does not actually belong to the person who claims it's theirs. So the problem kasi is, so for example, me, no, parang I've had a lot of people take my artwork and then sell it in OpenSea or Rarible, and they pretend that they're me. There's no way kasi for
oh
them to prove that, there's no way for the marketplace to know that that person is not me. They can say that they're me, they can copy my name, right? But like ultimately that's just an Ethereum address, so there's no way for them to kind of match this. And the nature of an open marketplace is that it does not ask for identification from its artists. I mean, that's the whole point. So there, that's the disadvantage. So if you are, if you're an artist and you're slightly more visible or slightly more well known, the likelihood na may kokopya dun sa trabaho mo and then will try to sell it somewhere else, it becomes higher and higher. Um, I mean, granted, the few times, so it's happened to me twice pa lang, not naman lots and lots of times, but both times it was reported by someone pretty quickly on Twitter, and then the I think it was Rarible one time, and then OpenSea on the other time. They took it down naman pretty quickly within the same day. So the community is pretty alert about these things, but it's not possible to completely prevent it. So that's the reason why the curated marketplaces, the ones where they actually do check uh, and interview the artists, that's why they have a special parang role in the community. It's because it's hard to because someone needs to verify these things, right? So examples of that are Maker's Place, Nifty Gateway, kind of the first wave of NFT marketplaces. They check they actually interview the artists before before they accept them. So they can
Luis,
double check if this person actually does own the artwork that they're selling.
Luis, I'm curious. In your example, how did they know that it wasn't you selling it? If there was somebody pretending to be Luis selling it, how did somebody know? No, that's not Luis. I better tell him that somebody's
I mean, I was
sort of
also
copying him.
in Right, right. I mean, I was also in those marketplaces. So I did have my own account in Rarible. I did have my own account in OpenSea. So what happened was they just literally copied the JPEG and then sold and they tried to sell it in their own OpenSea or in their own Rarible accounts. So that one was a little bit obvious. I'm sure there's ways to make it slightly harder to tell. No. But yeah, and I think that this is another no, that's another emergent question that each of these marketplaces are going to solve, kind of maybe with their own respective strategies. I don't know. I don't know exactly what they'll end up doing. I know that OpenSea now does offer account verification, so they now have that blue check mark if if they actually have been able to verify a particular artist. And usually, how they'll do it is they will interview that artist through their social media account externally to the marketplace. So they'll talk to you on Twitter, they'll talk to you on Instagram. That's how they'll establish if you really are the person that you're claiming to be.
I've got a follow up question on that, Luis. To the extent you said they've got a verification process. So, if let's say you've got one who's verified, one who's not, does it follow that the verified artist can command a higher price?
Yeah, generally speaking. Yeah, I mean, people are not going to be comfortable spending $1 million on an unverified account, unless there is so much other social verification that is happening externally to OpenSea itself. So if it's on crypto Twitter and everyone is talking about this particular project and linking to this particular page, then maybe you don't need it. But generally speaking, if you are an artist on one of these open marketplaces, it usually helps to go that extra mile and actually get verified. Especially if you are a well-known person outside of the NFT space, because yeah, you have your own reputation to protect, diba? So you would probably want to go through that verification process just to be sure lang.
Okay. Thanks, Luis, for those clarifications. No, I just have a few questions pa about these NFT markets, but this one maybe is directed more about finance. Welcome back, Colin. So I hope he can
Hey
answer this
everybody.
question. There you go. Yeah, you
Yeah,
can turn off your mic. Your
yeah,
video.
my
Sorry.
proof that
Yeah.
I my proof that I am in fact in the Philippines is that my Wi-Fi. I'm back in my apartment and my Wi-Fi is a little bit spotty sometimes.
That's kind of funny, bro. But yeah, yeah. Welcome to the Philippines. Welcome to the Philippines, Colin. Welcome back again.
Yeah, yeah,
Okay.
exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So this is a question for Binance NFT Marketplace. So we are aware that most NFT markets currently mostly allows GIF files or short videos like a TikTok video and photos to be
yeah.
uploaded and minted as NFT. Now, having said it, does Binance NFT Marketplace is it anything different? Like, do you allow, for example, this is just a curious question though. Do you allow music files to be uploaded to your platform?
I think we have not done any long form music, right? We have NFTs as you would think of them, which are typically audio visual. So certainly there's component to it. Can you guys just still hear me?
Yep, yep.
Yep.
Please go ahead.
Okay, yeah, sweet, yeah. Typically, there's certainly like an audio component to it. So there's a music, there's music or some sort of sound design. I don't think we've done many long form musical NFTs, and I think generally not just on Binance, but in general, that's still a pretty early space. Like I think people are still figuring out how best to turn pure music into an NFT, either without an audio visual or what is the standard visual that you would show with the audio. So it's a pretty nascent space. Certainly, I think we would want to play in it, and certainly it's still an NFT, right? Basically, what are you getting when you what is an NFT actually, right? It's actually not the art itself; it's the certificate that you own the art, right? And so if it's a certificate that you own a musical file, that's great, and that's very possible. But then it's like, what would you use the certificate for in relation to the music, right? And so if you were to build out a musical NFT a musical for a musical NFT for a musical NFT to have value, you have to build out a musical NFT ecosystem, right? So you would need to have some sort of use case for why it's valuable to own the song, right? Do you get royalties? Do you get special? You have a special relationship with the musical artist, something like that, right? So I think it's from a technology basis, it's very possible to have musical NFTs, a song or an album or a set from a DJ. These are all very technically feasible, but right now there's not a ton of utility for that NFT, and therefore you kind of have to you have to solve both problems kind of simultaneously in order for a musical NFT sort of ecosystem to arise, if that makes sense.
Yeah, yeah.
and
Thank
and
you very
certainly
much,
Binance
Colin.
is not in the certainly Binance is in the crypto business in a big way, but
Okay.
we're not so much in the crypto, we are not so much in the music business, right? So it would be hard for Binance to singularly build out an ecosystem of musical artists and utility and that sort of thing. We'd love to work with companies that were doing something like that, but I think it's something that the entire ecosystem kind of has to work on in tandem.
All right. Thank you, Colleen. How about Fermin and Luis? What are your thoughts? Because I can remember, just to share with all of you guys and all our audience, when I've attended one blockchain forum in, I think that's in Mall of Asia, way back before the pandemic broke out, and physical meetings are available. There is this music artist. There's no, I believe NFT is not yet a thing back then, because that's around 2016 or 2017. But she has this use case of putting her song in the blockchain and not having a label. She's actually from North Europe. I forgot what country. So she's an artist. She put her song in the blockchain and actually earns good money from it. Now, having said that, that can be a use case. It's not yet NFT back then. I guess she just put a layer of the song can be downloaded. If you download it, then the blockchain will charge you, something like that. But now that we have NFT Marketplace, which is like more dynamic and more, you said it's technically feasible. Maybe all we need right now are people or communities to adapt it. Because if use case is you'll be asking me of use case, I believe that lady who shared in the forum is already a good use case, though it's not yet NFT. So I'll be
I
asking the other gentleman here.
I think my theory about the music thing, like why hasn't it become like the next big wave for NFTs? I think it's just because music doesn't play well with Twitter. Twitter, it is such a visual kind of way to interact with people because it's text and a little bit of images, right? So parang that naturally lends itself towards visual arts. It's a little bit harder to imagine parang listening to an entire song or even a clip of a song on Twitter. It just doesn't feel like the way that people normally use Twitter. You don't usually have your headphones on when you're going through Twitter. So
Yeah.
and because Twitter is such a, it's basically kind of the default way that any of this stuff is promoted, right? So parang I feel like that's part of it. I also think that we tend to think about visual art very differently. No, I mean, there is a part of us that will buy art. There's a whole segment of the market that will buy art because they're going to put it in their living room, and they're going to see that every evening as they're chilling out. And whether or not they register that it's there, they know that it's there. It's a little bit different. Our relationship with music is different. It's a little bit more parang deliberate because you have to turn it on in order to listen to it. It's not just gonna sit there forever. So there's kind of that difference, I guess. I mean, that being said, a lot of people who collect art, it's not like it's sitting in their living room right now, right? It's usually sitting in their NFT galleries, which is a very different behavior altogether. So I don't know. I feel like it's just a matter of time. We just haven't found the correct parang delivery method, and maybe
Mm.
that's why it hasn't quite caught on yet. But that being said, like there's so many visual artists that are basically just integrating amazing music into their stuff. Like I was saying a couple months ago when I did this collaboration with a Filipino musician named Ian Banwa. He was the DJ from the group Drip. Um, like I was telling him, I don't ever want to do another NFT art that doesn't have music because like the music just brings it to life in a way that was not it just wasn't possible before. I want to keep doing it, but the only way you can listen to his music is by actually loading up this video that actually includes my art, right? And parang it's that kind of this weird thing. The music was good enough to just stand on its own, to be honest. But that being said, I'm very grateful that he contributed it to the project because now the project is so much better for that. But I don't know. I think we're figuring it out. We're figuring it out. But certainly, there's more and more visual artists that are just integrating the stuff directly into their work because the music is a great addition.
I think to add to that, Louis made a good point. The music is a great addition because it goes back to what you said earlier. It started with gaming, it started with art. Why? Because it focuses on your sense of sight, what you can see. So let's say the artist that you're referring to, James, she had a use case about putting it on the blockchain. Maybe it hasn't really taken off. None of the major music labels seem to have followed or think that it is the next big thing at this point in time. So I think also going back to something Colin said, there has to be probably a more compelling use case in terms of why would you use NFT for the music industry, but clearly it lends itself well to things that are visual. And I guess that's why the focus right now will be on elements or industries which are primarily visual. You can add the auditory as a backup to enhance the experience. But I think the auditory as a standalone, we're probably not there yet.
I mean, I would
All right.
also I would also call out. I would say, like, think about how the internet evolved. Right, the early versions of the internet were literally just you would go on each other's text servers, right, and you'd have links to visit each other's servers, and then later on there were some images, and then a little after that there was sound, and then there was all the and then there's the modern internet as we think of it, right? But um, the best interface we have, like if you think of computing as ultimately an information technology, right? It's like there's some link. It's some link between the brain and it's some link between the brain and like the collective network, right? Um, the highest throughput uh, download we have right now as humans is the eyes, right? The fastest like information processing is text and images in fast real time, and then you have sound and you have all these other things, right? But I think it's pretty common for internet native things to start as audio visual, right? Or visual beforehand, right? So with NFTs, it was largely images. Ironically, you also have text-based NFTs now, right? And I think these are things that come before native sound or music NFTs that are kind of native to the NFT space. And so I think this is consistent with the history of the internet and of computing in general, right? You start with like not even text, like meta text, right, which is code, and then slowly but surely you get into very rich media, right? And so the NFT space is in its early days. It's a lot of images. It's a lot of it's stuff that has a lot more. Images have more utility on the internet in general than music does, right? Music has a lot of there's gigantic internet music businesses, right? But like the internet's a big place, and so it's just easier to have utility with an image or with a text than it is to have utility with music, and therefore it's a more obvious early market for this new piece of the internet, right?
Okay. Thank you, Luis, Colleen, and Fermin for your commentaries. But I just would like to go back a little with the Binance NFT market. So I would like to ask Colin. Colin, if you are in privy to share, just if you are in privy to share, are there any special features of the Binance NFT marketplace, like Easter eggs you are in privy to share with with your marketplace? If there is any.
For a sec here, I was wondering if you were maybe fishing for an answer, and then maybe I forgot to read my notes beforehand. But no, I mean, I think that the advantage of Binance is you get the scale. Like, so if you're a creator, the advantage of the Binance NFT marketplace is we're a very scaled ecosystem, right? You get the advantage of the Binance Smart Chain, which is a high performant blockchain. You get the advantage of the Binance community, right? You get the advantage of the Binance ecosystem for what we think of as financial services or trading. And so if you're a creator, there's a lot of like very key advantages because we're a global a global ecosystem that has a very large and very passionate community. If you're a collector, we hope that we provide value to you by curating very, very great artists,
Oh,
by creating a technology platform that allows you to purchase NFTs with preferential speed and fees and performance. And I think we have both a curated marketplace and an open marketplace. And so we hope to provide just a great user experience and kind of a globally accessible market to everyone, and that's accessible to everyone in the world. And so I don't know if there's specific Easter eggs to call out especially, but we've had some very great artists in the Philippines. I think Louise being one of them, and a few other projects generally that have done very well from the Philippines, and we also have I think notable NFT projects from around the world that are accessible to you from the Philippines. And so I'd say that's the advantage of Binance is you're accessing a global platform, a global community, and we hope to curate a really great experience to that end. But yeah, I mean, I think, and then I think there's merits to Binance Smart Chain by itself and these sorts of things. But this kind of gets more into the technology discussion. And
All right. Thank you, Colin.
yeah.
Yeah. Thank you very much for that one. So, we are on the next set of questions, but before that, maybe we can take a very, very short break. And we're back. Hi, Sly. Welcome back. Welcome back. So that was a very, very powerful discussion that we had just a while ago. So right now, we're in the part that well, we're the second part of the question and answer portion, but we're not yet done. So please welcome again our guests in the set, Mr. Colleen and Mr. Luis, and of
Welcome,
course,
guys.
yeah, Mr. Fermin.
I sat
Okay.
down. I was getting tired.
Yeah, no problem, bro. So this one, the next set of questions is more about this thing called the DAO. So a lot of people is hearing it nowadays, especially the rise of popularity of this NFT P2E games, and yeah, like your organization, Luis, what you present, the YGG Guild, is actually thriving to become DAO. Now, the question would be now, as the NFT platforms emerges, thriving communities are interested in this type of organization into selling and buying their art or their work. So the DAO is a blockchain phenomenon now that is replacing the way we organize ourselves. Can you help elaborate more for the audience what a what DAO is and how it works?
Sure.
Yeah.
Okay. So maybe I'll just do it in the context of YGG because that's the DAO that I'm most familiar with. And I should probably start the conversation off by saying that YGG is meant to become a DAO in the future, but it's not right now. Typically, it's quite hard to start a DAO from scratch because when you're starting a new company, when you're starting a new organization, you need some centralization just to lay the ground rules, just to kind of figure out who the correct people in the how to place the correct people into the correct roles, and you need some parang decision making at the top in order for that stuff to happen fast. Otherwise it's going to take you forever. So a DAO will usually kind of rely on consensus in order to make its decisions. But so you have to imagine, it will probably be better if the organization is a little bit more stable before you start doing stuff like that. No, so parang you want to make sure that you've got at least you've figured out who your developers are, you've figured out who your PR team is before you start just giving control over to the organization or the community or something like that. But the intent with a DAO is to give control of the organization to the people who are actually using it. And one of the reasons why YGG wants to be like that is because we're basically an investment firm for play to earn games. And in order for us to find out what the next big play to earn game is, rather than relying on our own parang expertise, we can have the community tell us. And that is one of those really great attributes of having a DAO. The community will not only be the one to tell you, they could actually steer the organization in the direction of this new game, assuming that there's enough of the community that agrees that game X is the new Axie Infinity. If I don't know, just pretending, but like if 50% of the community decides that it's this game, then it's YGG's job to start putting more assets and investments in that direction. And that's kind of why DAOs are parang perfect for certain things. No, I'm not. There's only a handful of organizations that have successfully made the transition into DAOs. The one that I always use as an example is Maker Foundation. So
Hmm.
these are the guys that created DAI, DAI. So that's kind of the algorithmic stable coin, no, that mimics the dollar. They did not start off as a DAO. They started off as a normal foundation. There was a real org chart, and now they're not. They actually dissolved the foundation a few months ago, and now the community itself kind of steers or governs the protocol. So you need to kind of spend a couple of years to get the organization or community to that state. You can't just kind of start that way, or at least it's probably harder if you started as a DAO. It's probably easier if you start as a centralized thing and then you decentralize it later on. So yun, I think that a lot of this stuff is very very case to case, and the data tends to be very anecdotal because of that. It's not statistics because the data is quite little. No, there's not that many examples yet. But yeah, with YGG, the plan is to turn it into a DAO at some stage, and then also maybe even start creating child DAOs within it, specifically for certain games or certain vocations or certain areas that you want to focus on. So all of that is possible. Um, all of that is in the roadmap. But yeah, I can't speak to exactly how long it'll take us to get there, because I don't think even Maker Foundation, like they knew that they wanted to do it, but it took them a lot longer than they thought. So we'll see. We'll see.
Okay, thank you, Luis. But this is my question for everyone here in our panel. Speaking of DAOs, for example, what do you think would be the best? Because I will actually highlight a bit Min, because I remember him making mention that way back in 2 years ago, 2019, he mentioned that the NFTs most probably the industry that will adapt is gaming, and here we are. We see gaming as one of the in the advanced fronts of NFT. Now, having said that, what do you think will be industries that would be mostly relevant to actually adopt DAOs or
So
DAOs?
sure, I'll take a first stab at this. Um, it's hard to predict specific industries, but I think a principle that I hold as it relates to crypto, and I think it's especially relevant for DAOs, is I think people vastly overestimate the effects that the blockchain will have in quote unquote IRL spaces, right? So this is like I think any place where the digital world and the physical world has a bridge, it encounters this thing called the oracle problem, right? And so it's basically like at some point, a centralized human or organization is going to say yes or no on the validity of a statement. And then if that happens, it kind of defeats a lot of purpose of kind of the crypto space and the blockchain ethos and that sort of thing. So a general heuristic I use for all things crypto prediction is I think generally people vastly overestimate the ways that the blockchain will impact what we think of as traditional markets or traditional industries. And I think, but the counter to that is I think many of those same people vastly underestimate the size and scope and just sheer vastness of the internet, right? The internet is this infinite space where, I think it's not so, like I think people would have never thought that crypto gaming and cryptocurrency and NFT art and stuff, anything that touches the internet and can become an internet native use case becomes orders of magnitude larger. The taxi industry hit the internet, and then you had the ride sharing industry, right? The art industry is hitting the internet in the form of crypto and NFTs, and that's becoming something that like orders of magnitude more people can participate in, right? So I think generally people vastly overstate the places where crypto and the blockchain can improve the real world, and they vastly underestimate the size of just the internet native economy. So to your question about what impact DAOs are going to have on industries, I think applying that same heuristic, I don't think that mining, I don't think that people that are, I don't think that people that are mining natural resources, I don't think oil companies are going to become DAOs, right? Or I don't think that, shipping or logistics companies or, I don't think that, shipping containers or something, those aren't going to be DAOs, right? We already have the technology.
Bananas.
Right, yeah, exactly, yeah. We already have the technology for those industries. The technology for those industries is databases and communication stuff. Like those are not digital native industries. Where I do think DAOs are going to be incredibly important, and we're already seeing this. What are the digital native industries? It's gaming, it's media, it's entertainment, it's art, it is communications. These are things that will be very well served by decentralized ownership because they already exist natively online, right? And so I'd say it's very hard to predict, but I think that, for me, is the fundamental principle to apply to whether or not an industry will be well suited for DAOs generally.
You should call that Gold Trust law. So it's like
I'll take it.
yeah, why not, right? I mean, why not?
Yeah.
So it reminded me of Amara's law, which is we overestimate the impact of technology in the short term and underestimate the effect of it in the long term. So it's actually kind of a variation of that. So you can go like Galtra's corollary or something like that. That works too, actually.
I'll take it. I'll take it, man. Tweet it out.
But I totally agree. I think that parang you'll see the impact of this mostly on the internet, and it helps that kind of by its nature we tend to be remote right now, and like I'm referring specifically to the lockdown, but just even in this country, it's like we've got 2,000 inhabited islands in the Philippines. My guild has only 120 people in it, and I don't think any of us are in Metro Manila. So we're very, very dispersed. And I hope that at some point I can make it a decentralized organization, like an actual DAO. And it would work. I think it would definitely work because we're already internet native anyway. Plus, we're kind of forcing everyone to be crypto native because they're earning through a crypto game. They are earning cryptocurrencies. They're going to have to learn how exchanges work. They're going to have to learn wallets. If they have time, I'm going to fucking teach them yield farming. like all of
Yeah.
that shit. No, parang this is basically an entire lifespan of financial services that is purely within. I mean, God willing, at some point it'll purely be within the Ronin layer, so it's not even going
Mm.
into layer one. No, so we'll get to the point where you could live your entire financial life without even going to the base layer Ethereum.
Yeah.
I don't know if that's
Ready
gonna
layer
happen.
two.
Maybe. I'm hoping. I'm hoping. Yeah, and by the way, they opened up AXS staking just a couple of hours ago. I
Right.
believe right before we went live. So I
Yeah.
dutifully kind of put my AXS in there. I have no idea if I'm gonna earn any money from it, but like I think you're supposed to, right? I think you're
Yeah.
supposed to stake something there.
Yeah,
Anyway,
yeah.
whatever. So yeah, sorry, that's a tangent. But yeah. So we're getting to the point where you can live your entire financial life um, in on the blockchain, if not on layer two, actually. So that's even cooler.
Yeah.
Yeah.
To
Sige,
your
sige.
point
Thank you
quickly,
very
Louise,
much,
about
guys.
staking. Louise, to your thing about staking, I always think that like there's something very like there's like a to the thing about people underestimating like the digital impact, right? Like I almost think that people like staking is like there's almost like a civic responsibility, right? So if you're part of a project, you if you're part of a project, right, like you kind of are part of this mini digital community or nation or what have you. And so I always think that like there's like staking is almost like this, holding is like is one level of confidence in the project, right? But maybe you're speculating or whatnot, locking up your funds and staking them. I always think about it as like this. It's almost like a patriotism or like an additional vote of confidence for the project, right? It's like there's something that it gives you a sense of like civic duty or something. And so
Yeah.
I will also look to
Crypto
probably
cooperatives.
exactly, yeah.
Yeah.
Right after this, I'll probably go and stake my AXS as well.
There
I
you
have
go.
high confidence in this, guys. Yeah,
Yeah, me too. So
Yeah,
I
yeah.
didn't even read it, right? I just kind of,
Yeah.
I just threw it on there. So
Yeah.
yeah, sure.
yeah. The Sky Mavis team, which runs Axie, they've got a long leash. They continue to prove themselves in a big way.
Agree. I totally agree. So thank you guys for those sharing. It's wonderful, wonderful. Now, last question about DAOs. Too. With regards to the Philippine market, do you see any possible problems that the DAO can solve? Like, just like what Colin said a while ago, this would be industry based. This can probably be industry based or not, but based on the gold trust law, what do you think are the problems that
I like it.
DAOs
It's
can
becoming a thing.
probably answer? Yeah,
Hey, Colin will make that into an NFT already.
yeah,
Okay,
that,
yeah, exactly. Yeah, I'll sell commemorative Goltra's law,
yeah.
NFTs. Yeah,
Sell your tweet. Do they still do that? I
yeah.
don't know if they do. They still
They
NFT
I
still
think
have
tweets?
they still have that.
I think
Yeah,
they can still
Yeah,
do
they
that.
still
remember
have
Yeah,
that.
Jack Dorsey, right? His first tweet, he sold it for like $3 million.
Yeah,
grabe,
But
no?
yeah, I
so
mean, but
yeah,
that's
yeah,
it is Jack Dorsey. I've
yeah.
sold I've sold
What's
one
$1 million
tweet.
to Jack Dorsey? Yeah,
Yeah, yeah. I've sold one tweet. I earned $120 from it, so it's not 3 million, but it was a tweet. I don't know. I
not
mean,
bad.
again, I'm
Yeah,
not Ann
yeah,
Curtis, so I don't think my
okay.
tweets are worth all that much. But whatever.
Yeah,
So that's a thing apparently.
yeah. Um, I'll take a stab to your question, James, about where DAOs can solve problems for Filipinos, right? Um, so, man, I should coin a couple of these. So another little heuristic I have for myself. I've got some principles about crypto and the blockchain. Another one I have for myself is I think that the great wealth disparity of the 21st century is like the great class divide of the 21st century is not, whether or not it's not country based or race based or nationality or what have you. It's literally as simple as this. Do you earn your internet? Do you earn your income? Do you earn your wealth on the global internet market, or do you earn your wealth in some local national market? And I think over time, even in the great superpowers in the US and China and the EU, the internet, I think, will just be undefeated. It will have an undefeated track record against these nation states. And so the internet is the largest economy in the world. And it doesn't matter if you're in the Philippines or in Zimbabwe or in Silicon Valley or in Antarctica. Is the source of your money or income, is it the internet or is it whatever tiny pond that you play in, right? And so to that end, where I think DAOs are going to empower Filipinos, the Filipinos are a very digital. The Philippines is already a very digital country, right? I think to Louise's point about just being dispersed, right? I think that the Philippines historically has a very good track record of social media, of gaming, of offshoring. You have BPOs, you have personal assistants. Filipinos are already a very online people. And so where I think DAOs are going to be important is you're going to have an entire new class of people, right? You're going to have an entire new class of Filipinos who don't earn their money working for a BPO or for a corporate or from a sorry store. They earn in the global internet. And so what's going to happen is these DAOs are collectives of stakeholders. They're collectives of wealth, right? That's accumulating. And so I think that this internet native digital Filipino class is going to create DAOs, and they're going to provide opportunities to do Axie Infinity scholarships, to do NFTs, and they're going to create every digital industry. They're going to onshore it into the Philippines from the global internet economy, and it's going to create tens of millions of Filipino jobs. And so I think that the Philippines will take very well to being a digitally native nation. And I think lots of Filipinos will earn natively on the internet, and it will change the power dynamics of the country.
Yeah, for sure. I wanted to share like some small anecdotes lang from my art guild, because parang these stories kind of really stuck with me when we were kind of starting to interview some of our younger artists. And so a lot of these guys will do art commissions. So they'll post about their art skills on Facebook, and then they'll say, hire me to do a portrait of you or something, right? Can anyone guess here what the average cost of one of those art commissions would be from, so the main artist that I'm talking about, I think she was 21. So she'll do like a full color kind of, portrait of you, maybe in an anime style. Can anyone guess how much she charged for that?
$20.
Okay. Okay,
150
$20.
$150.
I go for
I'm gonna
50.
guess. I'm gonna
50.
guess
50
like
bucks?
six. I'm gonna guess 600 pesos.
600 pesos. Colin, you're very close, but I think I might have told you this anecdote before.
No. You
Okay.
haven't, but you haven't told me this anecdote, but I have seen Filipino
Yeah.
artists before NFTs with this kind of thing.
Yeah, 250 was the 250 pesos was what she was charging. So
Wow.
and so when I saw that, I was like, you know what, like if we sold your art as an NFT on OpenSea, it would be more like $250, and that would be a cheap NFT, right? So parang the economics of this space is very different from obviously the economics here in the Philippines, but the way I kind of look at it is that because the baseline here is so low, like almost anything is better than that, right? Like even if all we're able to do is 10x what she was charging, so instead of 250 pesos now it's 2,500 pesos, that's way better still, right? That's still way better than charging 250 pesos for a piece of work. So the I mean, I don't want it to make it seem like parang we have very low standards, but honestly, I guess parang the jump is not that big for us, But for the people that are actually producing this artwork, it's massive, right? We're talking a 10x increase. And it's still not that expensive, even at a 10x increase. So ayun, parang I think that like opening up these types of opportunities, it's I actually feel like this is the part that I genuinely feel is a civic duty. Like if you have any way to do it, if you have any means or resources that can put people on a path where they can access these parang more global markets, then we should be doing that. Like we should be doing that as our full-time jobs. So part of that is crypto education, right? So it's just why like doing shows like this, or kind of writing about this constantly, or whatever it is. No, parang a big part of it is education, and then another part of it is like just telling them that these opportunities actually exist, because until they saw the art guild, their concept of making money from their art was mostly just breaking into the 1,000 peso range for their commissions. That's like that's barely anything, right? So yun, that's it. That's kind of the way. That's what motivates me. It doesn't take all that much. It doesn't take all that much, but we could make such a big impact. And that's enabled
So,
by things like crypto, the DAOs, the NFT marketplaces, et cetera, et cetera.
All
to
right.
riff on what riff on what Louise is saying really quickly. He won't quote his own. He won't quote his own material because he's a modest guy. But Louise has a very popular crypto blog now, and he had a quote which I think has resonated for a lot of the people in the crypto PH community, which is I think many people know Louise is, in addition to his many roles, but in addition to being the country manager for YGG, he was the co-founder. He is the co-founder of Bloom Solutions, which is one of the well-known crypto financial services companies, and it originally started as a remittance company. And I think Louise had a great quote, which is something like, we started Bloom or it was something like, we started the business in order to help make remittances from abroad
Cheaper,
more convenient, cheaper or more convenient using crypto. And in fact, maybe we were misguided. Maybe the goal should have this whole time been to keep Filipinos in the Philippines, right? Like maybe in fact the goal the entire time should have been to keep people at home, or to give them the freedom of where they want to live instead of being OFWs. And I do think that is what's at stake here. This is not. This is historically, people would have to emigrate to other countries to access larger markets. Fundamentally, that's why people emigrate, right? It's for largely, unless of course there's some turmoil in their home country and they're refugees. Largely, they leave for economic opportunity. And to the points we've made earlier, in the internet scale crypto economy, it is entirely untangled from location, right? And so if you are really good, if you are someone that can adapt natively, you should not be working on your local in your local country's economy. It doesn't matter if that local country's economy is the US or the Philippines or France or wherever. The better economy is always the one online, and that will prove itself out in a huge way in the 21st century. And so, I think, to Louise's point, if you're an artist, you were an artist working in your local, not even in the Philippines, it was like your local social network, which is maybe from your town or your city or something. And now you have access to literally the largest economy in the world for art, right? And so it's like this huge power law shift of like what economy you can work in. And it's entirely separate from place. It's entirely separate from where you're located. As long as you have an internet connection, a phone, a laptop, and so forth, and a crypto wallet, of course. And I think that the quote I think is that Louise said is one that I think is gonna be like is one that will be continually recited in sort of the crypto PH community, because I think that really is the headspace shift that we've had over the last couple of years, right? The early crypto companies in the Philippines were Bloom and CoinsPH and others focused on, okay, well, there's a large Filipino diaspora. How do we send money home? How do we bring money back to the Philippines? And in fact, we don't need to leave the Philippines to bring money back to the Philippines, right? There's now this global economy that is much larger than any one country's economy. And so, I think it's a good one.
Thank you, Colin.
Yeah.
Like you really shilled the crap out of it.
Yeah. We're riffing well tonight. Yeah.
Yeah.
maybe
I
it's the
can
beer.
see that.
Yeah.
And having note of that, taking note of that, I will grab that anecdote and make that into an NFT. Yeah, Luis. No, that's a joke. Anyway,
I said, man, you guys
anyways.
are just NFTing everything.
Yeah. Come on, James. We're out here. We're out here providing great content. We're
Yeah.
giving you emotion, and you're just trying to turn this whole interview into an NFT.
Yeah. No, it's a joke. But yeah, but this is in that light, Colin, on your sharing a while ago, it just dawned on me that similarly, our community, the resistance trader, we actually vibe to that vision, mission, and goal, because most of our community members are OFWs and seafarers. So we've got a community for traders who are actually working abroad, who are nurses abroad. So yeah, I can actually vibe through that. What you made mention a while ago. But I have a curious question for you, Colleen, and if you are just in privy to share, but don't worry. You can answer this or not. But I'm just curious, among the Southeast Asian nations, since you are in Southeast Asia, right? Who would you say would be the most adaptive in terms of this new economy that we're based on your platform,
Sure.
right? Yeah.
Sure. So this is subject to change, but I think there are two countries that are very notable in Southeast Asia. One of them is the Philippines, right? And so, and I'm not just saying that as a Filipino, right? As a Philam, right? Like, I'm not just. That's not. I'm not being baited into that. I have some visibility into how the Philippines is performing, at least at the Binance level, relative to the rest of the world. And right now, I can solidly say that the crypto gaming phenomenon, the play to earn phenomenon, is by far the strongest in the Philippines. As an anecdote here, so if you work at a hedge fund, what happens is you wait for regulators and central banks and stuff to make changes on rules, because that affects the market, right? So if you're a hedge fund, maybe you're waiting for the Federal Reserve to change rates. My team, when Sky Mavis, Axie Infinity, changed the economics of the Axie game to make SLP more useful, to make AXS more useful. Within days, I saw immediate changes to my KPIs, right? So to my KPIs in the Philippines, right? Because crypto gaming is such a core part of the crypto market in the Philippines. So I think the Philippines has a number of advantages related to being, English, having a high English language penetration, having a very tight-knit crypto community that's very supportive of expanding crypto on talks like this one, having a pretty collaborative ecosystem, right? I think certainly there are different companies trying to solve the same thing, but in general, people are on pretty good terms. And so, it's very pro ecosystem. It's got generally pretty good regulatory landscape that is pro innovation and pro consumer protection, but also pro innovation. And so, the Philippines has just the right, for whatever reasons, and then also some of the digitally native stuff I talked about earlier about people knowing how to work from home and being very experienced with social media and gaming and so forth, right? But for whatever reason, the Philippines is doing very well in crypto gaming, and I think it's notable not just in Southeast Asia but globally. The other one I would really point to in Southeast Asia is Vietnam, and I'd say that Vietnam has a very strong developer culture and developer ecosystem. It's actually It's actually where the main founder and CEO of Sky Mavis, which creates Axie Infinity, is Vietnamese and based in Vietnam, is my understanding. And so a lot of the stuff that gets played globally gets developed in Vietnam. Vietnam also has, I would say, a very pro crypto community and these sorts of things. And so within Southeast Asia, I would say that these are a couple of the more noteworthy communities. But even beyond that, Thailand, Indonesia, Malaysia, these are all places where people are very receptive to crypto and so forth. But yeah, I'd say of how we think about this broader Southeast Asian, maybe let's call it ASEAN. I think the Philippines and Vietnam have something particularly interesting happening at least in this moment.
Interesting. Interesting. Thank you, Colleen, for sharing that
Of
info.
course.
Now, we're down with a couple of few more questions. So we're about to wrap up things before we actually do a Q&A with our audience. But this question is more about blockchain education. And in regards to within your organizations or groups, I would like to learn so anyone can answer. Is there a need to promote more blockchain education, specifically in what areas or fields of operation or community do you think we need to promote blockchain education?
Let me throw in my 2 cents on this. I actually think that blockchain education is only useful if you are doing something with it, and that's why we have 750,000 Filipinos who are suddenly learning how to use Ronin wallets, right? Parang like teaching them, Bitcoin, multi-sig and stuff like that is only really useful if they are ever gonna use Bitcoin multi-sig, and they probably won't. There is a reason why there are so many hacks from like there are so many stories of people who lose their axes, stuff like that. And it's largely because there is not enough education, but it needs to be very specific to this area where all of the people's time and efforts are spent. There's a lot. I think the problem, because it would be very broad about blockchain education, is that if it's too broad, you can't apply it to your personal context, and then it becomes wala lang. It doesn't stick. But if we instead go from the what is it that they need right now, and then work our way up from that, it becomes more practical. At the very least, teach them where the correct places to download the Ronin Wallet app are, or the Ronin Wallet Chrome plugin or whatever. No, I mean, dun pa lang, you've already got some pretty major security holes, diba? Because it turns out there's like multiple domain names out there that are all pretending that they've got the correct Ronin Chrome plugin, but actually it's not. So yeah, things like that. And then just like how, like, personal password hygiene. How do you make store a good password? How do you store your secret phrase? It's just stuff like this. Like, if you think about it, it's actually not that hard, but no one has actually gone to the trouble of parang making it like a very streamlined package for, I don't know, for your average Axie first timer, or whatever, or any other first timer. I'm using the Axie thing as the main example just because I know for a fact that there's quite a lot of them. But if this was a different context and we were talking about yield farming, so if this was like 2019 and we were talking about DeFi and yield farming, so parang I'd have a different set of recommendations, because that's all very kind of MetaMask related and stuff like that. Anyway, so the point is that parang being specific, I think, is probably the best path, rather than starting general, because yun nga, they're not gonna remember it. So just give them something that they can use immediately.
Uh,
Makes sense. Makes sense.
to
Yes,
add to
Colleen.
Louise's point, as you might imagine, I'm in strong agreement. So certainly, I'm never going to catch myself advocating for not advocating for more blockchain education. Um, but we do need to but I think I think um, there are things that are not even blockchain specific, but more like cybersecurity and digital hygiene that everyone should know. Never share your private keys. Never share your seed phrase. Try to understand where the correct plugins are. Know what the wallets are. There's also financial education, right? There's like financial literacy about no one can guarantee a return. Don't fall for pyramid schemes and other scams. These are all very important pieces of education. As it relates to blockchain education, I think something that maybe is I think maybe an underappreciated part of blockchain education is I think the primary advantage of blockchain education is not to be a blockchain user, but to be a blockchain uh, entrepreneur or engineer or some other employee at a crypto company. And I think we should advocate for people to join the crypto and blockchain industry en masse because, as to what I said earlier, is like that's how you get a job in the internet native economy, which is much larger than the Philippines, right? So I think that actually the primary advantage of understanding the blockchain is to make a career out of being in the blockchain. However, I think I think saying education is the main solution is maybe a bit of a cop out, right? As as the as the builders of these products, right? I think the people here are like we're the media and the platforms and the guilds. Actually, it's incumbent upon us to make the blockchain so easy to use that you actually don't need to know how it works. That's how the internet works, right? But I can't really explain how TCP/IP works that well, right? I have a good sense, but like most people don't, and they use the internet, and it's awesome, right? Like the end state of crypto is not that everyone needs to understand how the blockchain works. The end state of crypto is that you want a lot of people that understand how it works, so that they build companies and products and services. But actually, that's still a very small, even though it'll be a much larger cohort than it is today, it's still a very small cohort relative to global population. And most people will not know how it works, but it'll just work, right? And so I think education is important, but sometimes it's used as a cop out because actually, if you want to build a world beating service, it's supposed to be something everyone in the world can use, and not everyone in the world is going to know how the blockchain works, and that's okay. And so, yeah, I'd say it's important to a point, but it's not the most important thing the way it used to be.
All
I
right.
would agree that education's not the silver bullet that's going to solve everything, but it does have an important role, especially because you're talking about something like blockchain, which in many places is still new to a lot of people. Now, we do know that blockchain is still going to undergo several developments. It's going to be much bigger than what it is today. And the reality is that, to your point, Colin, the demand for professionals who understand the blockchain and can help build the products that work on the blockchain is way shorter than, I mean, the supply is way less than the demand out there. In fact, in one of the reports from Hired Data, which is a job search platform, when they were doing their interviews, they found out that one in every five software engineers they had for blockchain was basically self taught because they couldn't find any platform where they could get, let's say, a consistent type of training and standardized education, with which they could say, okay, I can go to company X and say, I'm a blockchain professional who can help you in the following area. So it's really interesting that they said a lot of what they've got are people who self-taught. So they probably try to look at YouTube tutorials and other sorts of videos just to learn because they wanted to be able to make a difference. And they do see that blockchain is going to be one of those areas. But clearly there's a need to have some way to have a better standard to uplift the standard of education so that at least you can say, yeah, I got my blockchain training here, and I'll be able to help you. But I agree with you. The education is good, but it's not the only thing. But it starts with that.
All right, all right. This is a good conversation. Now, speaking of that, Fermin, I've heard, and of course, this would be the reason why we are also sharing this in our broadcast and why we are co-broadcasting this with the iCore BP is because you guys, your group or your company or your organization, Musaijan.io, actually is the new partner of this organization or consortium called the International Council of Registered Blockchain Professionals. And in that light, I believe that you well said, and you vibe with the values, the core values of iCore BP. And more to that, maybe we you can share to the audience about this partnership and what the iCore BP can be all about, maybe just
Right. And
in
I
a
think,
nutshell.
okay, thanks for that. Now, I think something that Colin had mentioned earlier and also Luis. Remember, Musagan, one of Musagan's primary goals really was precisely to be able to teach people and open their eyes to the fact that there are opportunities where you can make decent living without needing to leave the country. All you have to do is have an open mind and be willing to learn. And I think that that's part of the area where we still have a lot to work on, because people have this notion that the only way to earn a decent living is go to another country and migrate. Well, that's no longer true. The internet, with what we have right now on the internet, it's proven to be a great equalizer. Blockchain is going to be another tool that's going to help do that. And iCore BP, essentially, if you're familiar, let's say, with ISO, right? You come up with standards. That's what iCore BP wants to do. They want to be able to essentially have a platform which can standardize the education for blockchain professionals, have a way to bring in best practices. That's why even in terms of the courses that they want to offer, they've got courses for blockchain studies, decentralized applications, smart contract development, crypto analytics, and the list is going to keep on growing. Why? Because the idea there is blockchain continues to be a growing field. I don't think there's anybody who can say right now, I know everything there is to know about the blockchain. There are just so many branches that are still in its infancy, and the need for people who are proficient or who at the very least understand the blockchain is going to grow. And I think, as Colin said, you don't need to be a blockchain engineer to be able to work in the blockchain. You could be a lawyer who can help companies understand what does it mean to be compliant with blockchain regulations, right? So there would be careers for what I would call the technical side, and there would be careers for, let's say, probably the less technical side, but they are going to be in the blockchain space. And that's really one of the goals of iCore BP, to try and standardize and professionalize the education that's being given for blockchain professionals.
All right. So yeah, that's iCore BP in a nutshell. Thank you for me sharing that one. Now, if you guys are interested to know more about the iCore BP, so just for the knowledge of our audience, you can actually visit their website icorebp.org. So, by the way, this broadcast is co-presented by iCore BP. So yeah, I guess that's it, and thank you very much. Now, we come up to the part of the program where we are entertaining the comments and questions coming from our audience. So let's check first. Bear with me. Let me check the comment section for the pages that we are live right now and see if there are some questions or some word comment. Say hi to Dr. Tammy Francis. By the way, Dr. Tammy Francis is one of the ICOR BP officers. So she's watching pala. Hi. Good morning to Dr. Tammy from the US. So we're checking out the comment section now and to see if there's noteworthy comments in the comment section or questions that they need to answer for our panelists rather. So check natin. Okay. So checking. There is none, but there is a phone in question, and I think this one is about, of course, our favorite NFT. So YGG daw, YGG. This is a private message, bro. Um, I don't know if you're in privy, but they're saying that YGG is actually doing recommendations for games, right? So they're asking if what other games other than Axie Infinity can you
Yeah.
recommend? Yeah,
Okay.
yan. This is
So I don't
question
have
for
to
you.
answer this personally because we have an official response to this. We wrote
Okay.
about the 12 games that YGG is investing in just a few days ago, actually. So if you look at just look up Yield Guild Games blog. The most recent article lists all of the games that we've invested money in,
So
and
that's
it's
12.
kind of more. Yeah, well, it's more
Quick,
than that now,
quick, Louise, can
but
you name them all?
no, come on, Colin, Jesus, like I
Just
can't
name
even
three.
name
Just name three. Give us three.
three.
Three
Oh,
names
sure, yeah. I
for
mean,
our audience.
Sandbox,
Sandbox.
Star Atlas. Um, I'm sorry, I'm cheating because I can see it right here on my screen. Um, anyway,
You had me
Field
at
of Cards, Ember
Sandbox.
Sword. Sorry.
Yeah, and of course,
Anyway,
Axie Infinity. Yeah.
yes, yeah, of course, of course. But I think the thing that you have to remember, because with YGG, is that part of the plan is to invest in as many of these play to earn games as we possibly can, and obviously we'll do the due diligence to make sure that these are sound investments. But because we're kind of spending our own money here, parang we're a little bit more. We make these decisions pretty quickly. So there's 10. Sorry, I didn't mean 12. It's actually 10 games that we're currently invested in. But I know that the pipeline is very long. There's so many other games that we're already investing in. I have not played any of these other games myself, to be honest. Like, other than Axie Infinity, I've never played any of these other games. League of Kingdoms, Ember Sword. I've not played any of these other games. Splinterlands, they keep telling me that I should, because that's the trading card game. So that's the one that's very similar to Hearthstone that I used to play semi-professionally, and then Hearthstone itself was based on Magic the Gathering, which I also played semi-professionally. So I've got this whole parang history of card game. In an alternate reality, I dream that I am a professional esports person, but like it's okay. I'm happy where I am, naman. I certainly feel like
Careful,
um,
that could happen.
the
I mean,
yeah,
you're
well,
well,
it
you're
could
well
still happen.
positioned
It
in
could still,
crypto, and you're well positioned in crypto gaming, and all you
that's
need to
true.
do is find the right game early enough, right? And I think
That's true. That's
yeah.
true. And Gabby needs to put me on a sabbatical for about 6 months so I can get
I
really really
mean,
good at a
yeah.
game.
I don't know.
So,
I don't know. Maybe it would be good for YGG if their country manager were a professional esports player, right?
these games are kind of I think the thing that surprised me the most when I first started to really play Axie Infinity seriously, the thing that surprised me the most was how deep the game actually was. And you don't get that sense when you're looking at it just like visually, no, because it seems very benign, it's actually quite cute, but like when you're actually playing it, there's a lot of mental energy that kind of goes into every duel. And I know James knows this because he plays also. And I was thinking that, parang, so it's a 2 to 3 hour a day commitment if you want to be an Axie player that makes the, kind of, you want to hit your quota. And I was thinking like, oh my God, actually, if I did 2 to 3 hours of this every day, I don't think I'd have the mental energy to work on anything else, because it's quite taxing. It's like playing chess for 2 to 3 hours a day. And obviously there are many professionals who will do that. They'll do many hours of chess every day. But if you're doing that and you've got another job, it's actually quite tiring. So yeah, and that's a good sign. That's a good sign because it means that the game is deep enough that you can have professionals, you can have tournaments, you can have people who really take the competitive side very seriously. And that's another thing that YGG is going to be backing a lot of, like lots and lots of tournaments. We're going to make try to support the game's rising stars and try to introduce them to the community globally, all of that stuff. So Ayun, sorry, long tangent, but we're backing a lot of games. I guess that's a short answer to that question.
That's okay. Yeah. Then I guess you answered a lot of those questions about these games, no? So I guess that's it. I can't see any other comment or question for now, although we've got viewers still watching us from the two pages that we are into. So maybe we'll just do shout outs to all of our audience, like shout out sa scholars ng TRT, Axie Infinity Scholars. So syempre, love your own. If you have scholars watching, Luis, you can also greet them. I saw my scholars a while ago watching and sharing the video. And also of course to sa
I don't think my
TRT sa
scholars have hit
scholars
their
ni
quota yet.
Also, shout out sa scholars ng Musaigen because I know I saw people also from Musaigen sharing. So,
Nice.
yeah, thank you very much, guys, for sharing. You don't know how much we value you viewing all of this stuff that we're doing here. Of course, yeah, keep on sharing and keep on tagging your friends because maybe, just maybe, if not now that they're not watching, if you tag them, maybe they'll see this and they'll get inspired because there are a lot of things that I actually learned right now, especially with these three gentlemen guests that we have. They've said a lot of things, no. Dami nilang kinuwento dito. Tatagalog na ako para mas ano. Anyway, yeah, ang dami na lang kinuwento dito and there are a lot of things, a lot of anecdotes that you can get from this show right now. Even I myself, despite the fact that I've been in the space for quite some time, I've been learning and it actually reinstated my what you call this, my purpose. And yeah, it's really good that Mr. Goltra actually coined Luis Benaventura and his Goltra's law. It actually reignites me right now, and we must go back to the field, no, and teach our people what to do and not why not to go abroad and just stay in the Philippines and just do the things that we do here, the things that they can do
Yeah,
best at
for sure.
home. So yeah, maybe with that,
To add
let's
to that
wrap up.
point, though, oh,
Yeah, go ahead.
sorry. If I don't mean to end the wrap. Sorry, but look, uh, the goal should not be that everyone stays in the Philippines or that everyone leaves. The goal is freedom, right? Like the goal
Yeah.
is
Yeah,
that Filipinos can control their own destiny, regardless of
Right.
location.
Right.
If you participate in the global internet economy, you can take your destiny into your own hands. You can gain financial freedom. You can travel the world. You can live where you want. The goal is not everyone has to be in the Philippines or everyone has to leave. The goal is that Filipinos can choose their own destiny, right? And so maybe it makes sense for a lot of Filipinos to leave because they like the snow or or they have relatives somewhere else
yeah,
or they get married to someone that they love abroad. Like the goal is not, everyone's in the Philippines or everyone's abroad. The goal is freedom. Second of all, I think in addition to being very digitally native, people loving social media and games, an advantage that the Filipino has in the 21st century is the Philippines is already a network, right? So you have this thing called the diaspora. You have people like my family who moved to the Filipinos that moved to the US. You have people in the Emirates. You have people in Canada. You have people in Australia. And so the concept of being Filipino is already has kind of a global representation, right? Because Filipinos travel really well. I was in like Malta earlier this year, and like my someone that I encountered was Filipina, right? So already the Philippines is already kind of to be Filipino. Obviously, it means to be from the Philippines, but also it's kind of a network, right? And so if you're traveling, you'll probably see Filipinos, and they'll say kababayan, and you'll kind of have you kind of have a network, right? You plug in, and so I think that because of that, the Filipinos in particular will take very well to a decentralized internet economy because people are already very accustomed. Filipinos are already very accustomed to being part of a network, and so yeah, I think the goal isn't everyone needs to come back to the Philippines. The goal isn't everyone should go to higher wage national economies. The goal is everyone should work on the internet economy, gain financial freedom, and take control of their life, And like I know, I know Louise well, and I know that's what we're both trying to build. And so yeah, I hope people watching the stream kind of take to that. And yeah, the goal isn't one or the other. It's freedom. It's freedom for all Filipinos, right? And so
Well
yeah,
said.
that's what we hope
Well
what we
said.
hope to build.
Well said. Thank you, Colleen, for that. So let's just take a round robin on the comments before we actually leave with our audience and wrap up this show. So maybe I'll start with my co-host Lai. Any thoughts or comments before we leave?
Yeah, I kind of want to touch up on the education thing. Yeah, it's too broad to just talk about blockchain. It's really got to be very specific and very useful to the individual. I've been in the blockchain space for about 4+ years, and I've categorized it in my own personal way under finance, the technology, meaning blockchain development, and just knowing the blockchain, so general stuff. So I mean, for me, it stops there, but for everybody else, it goes even way beyond those three categories that I know. So, I mean, for me, yeah. Um, in terms of blockchain, for people learning blockchain, yeah, I started out with the whole internet thing, self learning, but I think that's where it starts with. It starts with the individual and just getting curious and just getting started with it. Eventually, you'll find your own path, and it will work for you eventually in some way. So yeah.
Thank you, Sly. So let's go back to Colleen. So any last words?
Well, I would hesitate to say too much because I feel like I just had a big monologue, and to say much more would maybe cheapen it. To Sly's point, there is a magic. There's a magic about learning on the internet, right? Um, there's a very well-known Silicon Valley venture capitalist named Naval Ravikant, who is very wise and has many tweets and podcasts and stuff. He has this great quote, which is, "On the internet, the knowledge is free. It's the desire to learn that is scarce," right? And so um, the information is out there, and if you're someone that has the discipline to learn any new skill on the internet, right? The goal is to participate in the internet economy. All of the skills you need to participate on the internet economy are out there and they're free, right? And credentials are still somewhat important, but on the internet, credentials aren't that important. And so if you have the desire to learn these things, it's free and it's on the internet. And if you can take it upon yourself to have the accountability to learn and the desire to learn, the world literally the entire world can open up for you, right? And so, yeah, look, my advice, my closing advice here is literally find a way to earn money on the internet. And if you can do that, you will gain your financial freedom. It's as simple as that.
Yeah, thank you, Colleen. Now let's proceed, of course, with Mr. Luis Benaventura.
So I am not going to say all that much because I think Colin kind of already said it very well. My one last piece of advice is, verify everything that we are telling you today. I say that all the time, right? That's why I keep wearing this stupid hat. Like every time I'm on stream, I always have to wear the hat because I have to remind people that this is the motto, right? Don't trust, verify. And Colin and I have opinions. Obviously, there are opinions that have come from like a position of having a lot of information and time and experience in this industry, but that doesn't mean that we're infallible. So yeah, verify it, learn for yourself, do your research, all of that stuff. And also remember that the things that we're talking about on this show right now, Axie Infinity, things like that, this is very, very early days. Most people forget that Axie Infinity is an alpha version of the game. This is not the final version, not even close. And I think you can say that about most of the blockchain, actually. This is not the final version. So, kind of bear that in mind when you are, thinking about whether or not you should commit your life savings to this or whatever, just kind of, just don't forget that all of this stuff is still being figured out as we speak. And hopefully because of shows like this, because of all of the community created content out there, you'll get a sense of where the thing is heading, naman, and you're not going to be completely in the dark about it. It's not going to surprise you if you know who to listen to and follow. But again, do your own research. Don't trust. Verify. That's it. Thanks so much, everyone.
Thanks, Luis. Now we got Mr. Fermin Barnechea.
Well, taking off from what Luis said, verify. Now, the tools with which you can verify whatever has been said by Colleen, Luis, myself, or any other shows that you may have listened to, they're already available. So all it requires is your initiative and your discipline to find out more and learn. And that's what's going to separate those who will succeed and be able to empower themselves to be financially free from those who are still going to remain where they are, probably stuck in a 9 to 5 job, worrying about what to do next. The point there is that the tools are available. It starts with you. You've got to make that decision that you want to better yourself. Nobody can do that for you. You have to want to do it. The tools are there. And I think we've all said it. Shows like this, that's part of the continuing process of opening your minds to the possibilities out there. But that's all we can do. We can only open your minds to the possibility. You guys have to take the next step and actually want to learn more so that you can make a change in your life. Otherwise, all you're going to have from us is just data. Unless you do something with that data or that knowledge, it ends up meaningless. It can be meaningful, but it's up to you. You have to take that next step.
Thank you, Fermin. So yeah, so that's our wrap up of our session for today. But actually, before we let you go, guys, there are some noteworthy comments from our audience right now. So like Miss Jeremy Estiva told us, I love the conversation. It's very inspiring. Thank you. And another from Mr. Jeremy. This goes to you, Luis Benaventura. Where
Where
can
can
we
we get
get the
that?
hat? Better answer this question, bro.
Yeah, unfortunately, I don't think they make them anymore. I was actually trying to convince Team Manila to do like a Philippine version of this. Maybe I still will. I'll follow it up with Joey. But yeah, like I want to make like a Philippine version of this hat just because I feel like it's more important now than ever. To kind of have this motto. But yeah, they don't make this anymore. It's actually from a company called Open Dime. Anyway, so yeah, it might be a little hard, but stay tuned. Maybe we can actually produce them.
Yeah, thank you. And this there goes a thank you from Ricky Cruz as well. Magandang gabi. Sabi niya, maraming salamat sa dagdag kaalaman. So that's in pure Philip. Naintindihan mo 'yon, Colin? You understand that one? No, I'm shitting you. That's a joke.
No,
I'm
no
Yeah,
worries.
asking
man.
if you
Yeah,
understand.
yeah.
Just turn it into
Yeah,
an
Yeah,
yeah.
no,
NFT.
no, I know Magandang Gabi, of course.
Yeah, there
Actually,
you
I was
go.
gonna make a joke. I was gonna make a joke earlier because you said, "Oh well, we'll just speak English since we have the foreign sponsors, but everyone here understands Filipino." And I'm like,
Yeah,
"Oh, thank."
that's what I'm about to
I don't need to apologize for the nosebleeds on this one.
say. So yeah. And speaking of our sponsors, it's noteworthy to before we end the session, this broadcast is actually co-broadcasted by, of course, Altash Education and the International Council of Registered Blockchain Professionals. With that, wrapping up the session, this is James Enove, co-founder and community manager of the Resistance Trader. This community would like to thank you, and we will see you again next show. We are the Resistance. Goodbye.